Hello, welcome to my Atlas Mountain Race 2024 race preview. The Atlas Mountain Race is going to kick off in a few days' time in Morocco, Marrakesh. It's probably one of the first big events of the year, so let's take a look and dig into the route and see who's riding and do a bit of a preview, see what's going on. So this is the website, atlasmountainrace.com, so go and check it out. It's got all the info on there. So when does it start? 9th of February 2024, that's at 6 p.m. local time, and starts in Marrakesh and finishes in Azouria, Morocco. It's 1,300 kilometers, so that's just over 800 miles with 21,000 meters of climbing. There's three checkpoints, and the tracking is on Map Progress. So if you check out the website, I'll put all the links below. You can follow the race and see what's going on. And also their Instagram is Atlas Mountain Race. Now, this isn't going to be daily updates and coverage because I'm out there racing myself. So I've not left just yet. So this is going to be my preview. Then after the race, I'll do a race report. I'll have loads of videos, bike checks. I'm actually wearing this funky ring here that reads like heart rate and recovery and things. So I'm going to do some videos looking at how I recovered during the event. Also, I'm going to wear a glucose monitor from Ultrahuman, and I'm just going to see what happens to my body, do a bit of a video on what I eat and that kind of thing. So before we go any further, big thank you to Redshift, who are going to sponsor this mini series about the Atlas Mountain Race. They do some really great products. They do the arc pedals, as you can see here, the kitchen sink handlebar, and the shock post with suspension seat post, which I'm going to be using for the event. So I've used this on numerous things. I've used it for Silk Road. I actually used it on the Atlas in 2022 when I did it. So yeah, really great, especially on these rough tracks. So I'll highlight some of these products as we go along. They're offering a 15% discount. I'll put the code below. It gives you an extra 15% off any purchases, and there's free shipping at the moment in the UK, Europe, USA and Australia. And yeah, so that's Redshift. Big shout out to those guys for supporting me. Now onto the course. So this is RideWithGPS, and this is my I think it's the clearest way to look at everything. As you can see, this is the GPX supplied by the race organisers, and there's all these points of interest in there showing kind of resupply checkpoints, areas to be cautious and things like that. So let's have a little dig into the route and see what all the riders are going to expect. So as you can see, the race starts in Marrakesh in Morocco. Let's just zoom out, show you where Morocco is. It is, of course, one of the most northern countries, or the most northern country in Africa. Just over the Strait, Gibraltar Straits from Spain. So yeah, it's not too far from Europe, but there's definitely a distinct African vibe about it. So the event starts in Marrakesh, and basically it's a long false flat to start with, and riders are going to be pretty grouped together. You're on fast roads, and you're basically the first 50k you're just getting out of the city. So I took a load of video back in 2022. So this is the start. Obviously, it was 9 a.m. in 2022. Also a different time of year. It was in October. It got delayed a few times by pandemic. So back in the February slot now. So riders just be rolling out. It'd pretty much be a group start for the first 50k or so. There's not really any way you can kind of split it up. But as soon as you hit the mountains, it gets rough. And you can see here, it goes up pretty steeply, two fairly big climbs, up to the highest point of the race in the first, 73 miles is the highest point of the race. And yeah, that's where things are going to get interesting. Now, it's worth saying, before we go any further, just have a look at the weather forecast. So the race starts on the 9th, and as you can see, there's a massive like rain kind of cloud coming in and hitting the mountains. So if we look here, it's looking like heavy rain all day, still 15 degrees, and getting warmer in the evening. So I imagine the warm air is pushing in. It does look like it eases off as the race starts at 6 p.m. But as you can see, it's this is for Marrakesh. So up high in the mountains, there could be rain, there could be snow. At 2,000 meters, if it's precipitation, there's a fair chance it could be snow. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to look at that first night of the race. Could break a few people before it's even started. It's certainly going to be testing. And when I did it in 2022, the forecast was actually fairly similar. So let's have a look. We'll check out what happened. Now, I got over that first pass in 2022 without rain, but it started raining afterwards. So the pass, as you can see, it's rideable all the way up, and then you get to the top, and basically it deteriorates. So it's an access road essentially to these pylons you can see. But once you hit the top, it deteriorates into basically a goat track. Now, you might have heard people saying it's a massive hiker bike the whole way down. There's sections you may need a hiker bike. If you're a really competent mountain biker and it's daylight, you could probably ride the whole lot. I think I rode maybe 90% of it in 2022. That was on a drop bar bike. As you can see, it's quite rough, quite rocky. There is a track there, and you can ride down it. However, if it's raining, it's going to make it more difficult. There's potentially, I'd probably say almost guaranteed snow up the top. We're going to be doing this in the dark. In 2022, it started at 9 a.m. This time it starts at 6 p.m. So it started on Saturday 9 a.m. in 2022. This year it's Friday 6 p.m. Basically, that's to give the sort of the riders towards the back of the pack the maximum amount of time to complete the course. So that's going to be really interesting. So potential snow up high on the high point here, and then drop down to the first checkpoint, which is in Telouet. So I'd imagine most of the the front runners would, I suspect, get there probably 1 or 2 in the morning. So it's going to be pitch black. And then we run off into this series of climbs here. Now, once you get through this section, you're getting out of the high mountains. So if it is bad weather, I would expect it to start improving a little bit. The rain seems to sort of sit up on the mountains. I've been to Morroco a few times now. So yeah, hopefully once you get over it should be fine. And by the morning, the forecast for Ouarzazate, I can't even say that, Ouarzazate, which is one of the bigger towns, is looking a bit better. So hopefully get through the first night and it should be good. On to sort of some of the later sections of the route. Now, I mentioned the rain in 2022, and there is a river crossing fairly early on, which we got there in the first morning, so it's probably going to be fairly, well, probably daylight when we get there. But the thing about the rain in Morocco is that it basically the ground is so hard that all the rain just rushes down off the mountains, and you can see this river. It was impassable. The race got stopped for 2 or 3 hours. I basically caught up all the leaders again, and you can see the colour of it. It's not too deep. This is Nelson, the race organizer, in the middle here. But basically the race got neutralised. You can see on the far bank there how high the river was. Like, that's another foot or so, and a raging torrent would have been extra wide. So it's not something you really want to be diving into, without being extremely careful. So again, that could be another thing that could affect the race on that first day. So that river crossing, if we look at the map, where is that river crossing? It is here. So you can see the river here. Just zoom in here. It would be that river there. And that's before the remote section as well. So this is the longest section without resupply, 100 kilometers. So you need to really stock up in one of these shops before. And I suspect most riders will stop at the gas station, the petrol station here. There's a restaurant, it's 24 hours, so it's guaranteed resupply. And you really want to have a lot of food. Food is something that is really not an issue, but it's scarce on the Atlas Mountain Race. You can get food, but quite often it'll be a quick omelette like this. This is a cheese omelette. Cheese is a loose sense of the term. And you can get soft drinks and stuff and bread, but calories are not super easy to come by, not without a long wait anyway. And if you're racing and want to keep pushing on, you're not going to stop for a tagine or something like that, which could take 45 minutes to an hour. So yeah, it's a tricky with resupply in this event, and you're definitely going to come back a lot skinnier than you started. So that remote section, this video will give you a nice little kind of feel of kind of what it's like. Now, I said 2022, it was pretty bad weather that first night. You can see it's really not very clear in the sky. That's because the wind came up from the south. There was a massive sandstorm. The Sahara Desert is less than sort of 100k away from here, or the start of it at least. So it was really overcast, as you can see from this video. That's Ryan, that's Stephen Leherick. We rode together for a bit, and then you sort of end up going down this big gorge, and this is the kind of landscape you can expect. Very mountainous, pretty dry, quite rocky, and it's just a race of attrition. It really does beat you up. You've got to look after your bike, you've got to look after your tyres. Loads of people scratch with tyre problems, and it is February in the mountains, so it can be cold. You don't get fooled by the fact it's the desert. It's going to be just above freezing at night in certain places. And yeah, it's that catches people out as much as heat can. Further down the route, so heading into CP2, there's some big climbs. This is a nice big climb. You can see again the kind of terrain. So this was in about the mid-afternoon heat. You can see I've got the neck protector on there. It really was approaching 30 degrees. This was in October time. I'd expect it to be slightly cooler in February, but even so, coming from a Northern European winter, it's going to be pretty cool. So pretty cold. So you can see here, that's the climb up this section here, and the second checkpoint in Azarea, and it's it's quite a big gap from the first checkpoint, which is just about here, 85 miles, to the 350 miles for the second checkpoint. So it's a good almost 300-mile stretch without a checkpoint. So yeah, it's there's a lot to be getting on with, and a lot of hard terrain before you sort of reach that point. Now you can get food and things, and there's lodgings. I think I had a shower there in 2022. But one thing you may notice if you're looking on the route here, it's an out and back to the checkpoint. So if you miss it, which a few riders did in 2022, and I'm sure there's been others riders since, it's quite a long way back down to well, if you miss it, you go down this massive gorge essentially. So if you have to go down there and have to climb back up again, it's going to add a lot to your time. And you can see again, it's pretty spectacular. This is very typical of the kind of tracks you'll ride in the Atlas Mountain Race. Beautiful scenery. Well, if you like desert scenery, that is, I suppose. If you like lush forests, then you're not going to see much of it. But yeah, so if you're watching this and you're about to ride it, do not miss the checkpoint because you will regret it. You'll have a long climb back up. Now, after this, we get some interesting remote sections, and then one of the kind of iconic places here, road broken here, as it says on the POI on RideWithGPS. This is the old Colonial Road. It's absolutely spectacular, but it's really rough and really remote. So I got to the old Colonial Road. I would have got there pretty much at dawn, and this is a video of the view. This is like the sun rising over the Atlas. It's absolutely spectacular. The night before, though, I did run out of water. I was lucky to get through this. I managed to get some in a village. So again, water management is important. You can see the road weaving up here. It was getting pretty warm by the time I got to the top, probably about 11 a.m. So if you hit that in the heat of the day, it's going to be pretty hot. And you can see from the surface on my next video that it's actually pretty rough. This is a climb, and it's really hard to keep momentum. It's hard work. It's not easy going, and you're getting pretty high as well. But yeah, the views certainly do reward. And there is a town the other side, so you kind of know that once you get over this and get down the descent, you do have some resupply, and you're going to be kind of able to get a meal and buy some more food. So yeah, that's the town in the bottom here. Tondute, I think, is the town. Isafan is where the shop is. Heading after that, there's a series of climbs. There's a steep gorge climb, really quite brutal, and then a series of fast rolling roads before you head into CP3. Now CP3, it's a really good place to resupply. It's in a hotel. They've got a little restaurant there. You can get sandwiches and things. And then after that, the route has actually changed since I did it in 2022. So in 2022, the race finished in Agadir, dropped down to the coast and rode around the coast. Last year, the route was changed, or the finish was changed to Azuria, so the route had to be amended. So it's about probably 100 miles longer than it used to be. So you've got a long stretch of desert here, straight across the sand. Now, this caused a lot of riders problems last year. Apparently, there is a track there, but you've got to be really quite precise to ride it. And then a series of climbs, as you can see, some big old climbs before hitting the coast and rolling into Azuria in the finish. Now, I've heard from firsthand from a few riders that there's not much in the way of resupply down here. And you may remember there was quite a large earthquake in Morocco late last year, and it did affect this kind of area. Generally speaking, the route loops around the areas that were affected, but apparently this was quite affected, so it might not be up and running quite to kind of the efficiency level that it was before. So yeah, you've got to be careful that you don't get caught out, and obviously you don't want to put too much strain on the local facilities, so you've got to really kind of stock up where you can in this section here before you cross the desert. So yeah, that is the route. Bit of analysis of it, and something to refer to if you need to with the RideWithGPS file. Next up, I'm just going to have a look at some of the riders who are taking part now. These races are getting more and more competitive, more and more people coming in. There's more strength and depth across the men's and the women's fields. So it's going to be a really good race to dot watch. So I'm going to start with the women's field. There's some key names I've managed to pick out in the women's field. Some riders who I think will do really well. First up, Natalie Bayon. She won. Well, she was joint winner with I can't remember her name now in the Silk Road mountain race last year. So she's well kind of versed in these kind of races. She's going to be up there, super determined, and I suspect she'll be pushing the front most of the way through. Next up, Cynthia Carson, the US rider. Now she's won Badlands over in Spain. She's won some races, including Unbound XL over in the USA. So she's got sort of the pedigree, the big wins. I think this is her first time in Morroco. So it's slightly like just the resupply and things like that is something to consider. But she's super strong. I'm sure she'll do really well. So yeah, keep an eye out for Cynthia. The other riders to watch, Molly Weaver. Well, she used to be professional on the road, so she's certainly got the engine for it. She's not quite got it together fully for one of these races yet, but she's certainly fit enough to contend. So it'd be really interesting to see what she does in this race. And then someone else to watch, Quinda Van Hoel. She's done this race before. She's done Silk Road, and she's really she's really strong and reliable. She knows, how to ride this race. She's really resilient, so you can't rule her out from a top result as well. So yeah, keep an eye on Quinda. Over onto the men's event. Now we've got a previous winner in the field, Marion de Saint-Exupéry. He won in 2022, the year I did it, and he's actually just embarked on a pretty cool journey. He is riding to all the races he's racing this year. So he's ridden from his home in Switzerland to Marrakesh to start the race, as he did in 2022 when he won. After that, he's riding to Greece to do the Hellenic mountain race. And then after that, he's riding to Kyrgyzstan to do the Silk Road mountain race. So yeah, hell of an adventure for Marion. You can't rule him out. He might not be the downright fastest on paper, but he's really efficient, really strong, and he's not going to mess up. And he's won it. So, you've got to respect a win. He's got to be a number one contender. Next up, trio of riders. I've got them all together in one image, and you may recognise it. This is at Brush Mountain Lodge on the Tour Divide last year. 3 riders who really animated the event. So Jens Van Hoel, he was really pushing the leaders. He ended up scratching them with hand problems, but super strong in the Atlas Mountain race. You can't rule him out. The winner of the Tour Divide last year, and probably a familiar name to many people, Ulrich Bartholomew. He's super strong. His first time on the Atlas Mountain race. I'm sure he'll be right up there. Maybe not quite as good on the rougher stuff, but there's enough fast rolling roads here that he'll do well. And he's won Tour Divide, so you just cannot rule him out. And then probably everyone's favourite, Justinas Slavica from Lithuania. Well, he lives in Norway, but he's from Lithuania. He's got unfinished business. I think he scratched the year I did it, 2022, after leading. He was on the podium last year, I think. So yeah, this year he'll definitely be gunning for the win. He's riding a full suspension bike this year. He's learning kind of the ins and the outs of it now. So you've got to keep an eye on Justinas. So yeah, there's 3 dots to watch. And Matteo De Marchi, he's probably the strongest guy in the field. He's again experienced in the Atlas Mountain race. He ended up scratching from the lead last year, ended up with pneumonia, so he just wasn't able to continue. So I'm sure he's back and he's got a point to prove. And yeah, he's going to be certainly one of the fastest guys in the field. So yeah, keep an eye out for him. We've also got a couple of pairs riders as well, who it's going to be a good battle. So we've got Stephen Leherick. I've ridden with him a few times at various events. Super experienced. He's going in a pair with Adrian Leachty. So it'd be cool to see. I reckon they could probably mix it in the top 10 together. Then Angus Young and his fiancée Megan Casebow. Now Angus, he's won a Highland Trail, things like that. And Megan's super strong as well. So it'd be interesting to see what they can do together and where they end up in the field. Plenty to watch. So I'll put all the links below to kind of all the, you know, the tracker, the website, Redshift with my discount on there, and the RideWithGPS file, so you can sort of dig into it yourself. So yeah, give them a follow, give Atlas Mountain Race a follow on Instagram. That'll be the best place for daily updates. I'll be out there myself, and once I'm back, I'm going to have a load of videos, and yeah, hopefully you find it all interesting. So thanks for watching. Give us a subscribe so you don't miss anything, and see you when I'm back from Morocco.